morning. My name is Karine Lheureux. I'm head of the Application Desk Unit, and I'm very pleased today to welcome you to the webinar with the title, What Services Does EFSA Offer to Regulated Products Applicants? This is the series of, it's a third webinar that EFSA is organizing. In the past, we had one on pesticide, one on Nutri, and today the one on the catalog of services. I'm here together with my colleague, Margherita, and we will share this presentation that we have with you for 45 minutes, followed by 15 minutes of question and answer.
Thank you very much, Karine. My name is Margherita Guidi. I'm the Communication Officer of the Applications Desk Unit. And if we are all ready to start, I think we can start this webinar with the around 70 participants connected online today. So thank you for attending our webinar. So before starting to go in the content of this webinar, I'd like to guide you through a very short guide to attendees in order to show you a bit some technicalities of the Adobe Connect platform that you are connected to today, and also give you some tips in relation to how to engage with us and interact with us throughout the webinar. First of all, you should know that this webinar is being recorded, so please ensure that you have carefully read the EFSA disclaimer and data protection note. And if you do not agree with the EFSA policy on webinars, we would suggest you to disconnect now. Also, it is important to note that the webinar will be in English language and the question should also be submitted in English. Just to give you an idea on how the volume and speakers feature work in the Adobe Connect platform, you are automatically connected to the audio broadcast. So we have one-way audio. This means that you are in listen-only mode. To check the control volume that you have in your computer, you should go in the audio panel, and in there you have the possibility to enable or disable this feature. Please make sure that you enable sound on your computer and or that you turn on your headphones in order to be able to listen to us and to this presentation. Just a little bit of an overview on the virtual room that we have set up today for the webinar. We have a presentation window, which is the biggest part of the screen that you see. Then we have on the right side the Q&A box where you can submit your content-related questions. Below the Q&A box, you will have some files that you can download, and these in particular are the EFSA catalog, of course, and this presentation. And next to it, we have also a video window where you can see Karine and myself, and the chat box where we would suggest you to submit non-content related questions here.
So Margherita, for the participants to be well aware, again, the chat box and the question and answer box, different type of questions.
Correct, Karine. The Q&A should be used only for content-related questions. So on the remit of this webinar, on the topic of this webinar, while if you have any issue with the technicalities of the Adobe Connect platform or anything which is more like on technical issues, then please submit it through the chat box. You also have this feature which is giving you the possibility to zoom in and zoom out the presentation window. I'm not going to spend time on this, but you see the icon there in the screenshot. If you want, you can maximize the presentation view. Regarding the sending of questions, this is quite important. We would kindly ask you to be concise and submit your questions only once. The follow-up questions that you might have, please try to make them self-explanatory, so to make the Q&A contributors' life easier in order to be able to provide you with the appropriate answer. You can ask questions until 11:45. Yes, Karine?
So the question cannot be making reference to a previous question.
Correct.
Independent questions.
Yeah, try to make them self-explanatory, as I said, so that for the Q&A contributors, they can immediately spot what you are looking for and what information they should provide to you. So as I was saying, we will continue with our presentation until 11:45, which is the period that you can submit your question also. You will see the answer to your question right below the question row, only once they are replied by EFSA. This means that the moment you submit your question, you won't see it in the stream of question and answer in the Q&A box, but just be patient and you will find it there. We will address all questions as soon as possible, and until 12 noon, yes. But if you, by any chance, you do not receive an answer to your question, then please feel free to resubmit it through the EFSA App Desk Web Form, which is available online. So here it is. This is the team of Q&A contributors that we have today and that are helping us in replying to your questions via the Q&A box. Unfortunately, 2 of the colleagues are missing from these pictures, but just to give you an idea of the faces that are behind the Q&A tool. Now we reach the objective of the webinar. As you know from the web announcement that we have published on the EFSA website, this webinar was set up to present the different support initiatives that are available at EFSA for applicants during the life cycle of application. During this presentation, we will not go through each single service. We will make a selection of the services that are included in the catalog, and we will try to highlight what is the nature and the scope of the service, who can request the service, when and how to access it, and the expected outcome of each service. What we will not be able to address during the webinar and also during the Q&A handling is the advice on specific application or planned and already provided support, the advice on particular scientific matters, or questions related to the legal framework or the risk manager's competencies, which are outside EFSA's competencies. What we will publish instead at the end of this webinar will be the final agenda, the presentation, and the webinar recording, but we will not publish the log of questions and answers. But of course, you will be able to check them in the webinar recording.
So Margarita, the presentation of today, the documents will be available after the webinar.
Correct.
For everyone.
Yes, everybody would be able to access the event announcement on the EFSA website and in there find the agenda, this presentation, but also the webinar recording. So the discussion that we're having here today, including the question and answers that will be submitted throughout the webinar. So if we are all ready to start, I would start with the content of the webinar, and just to give you an idea of the outline of the webinar and of the presentation, we will start with an introduction to the catalog, explaining where you can find it, what is the purpose and the structure. We will then go through the different phases of the application's life cycle, the way we define them, the way we identify them. And in there we will make a selection of services and provide you with some information in relation on how to access the services and what to expect. We will end this presentation with an overview of the services requested until now and with take-home messages to consider. So where can we find the catalog? The catalog is published on the EFSA website. It is a technical report, so it's available on the EFSA journal as well as under the application section. The web section of applications is available from the top navigation menu, as you can see from this screenshot, and directly on the landing page, circled there in green, you will have the possibility to access the catalog of services. Another opportunity to find the catalog is, again, within the application section. On the About Applications at this part, you will see services to applicants, and in there, again, a link directly linking to the catalog of services.
So the document we have now, which is available to download is available on the website, and any update would be placed at that position also.
That's correct, Karine. Every time that we will update the catalog, we will replace this document, and this will be accessible from these 2 parts that I just highlighted to you, and of course on the EFSA website. So the purpose of the catalog, we decided to provide an overview of the support initiatives which are currently in place for applicants, member state, and any other interested parties in relation to regulated products application. This was to set up a global comprehensive list of all services which are available for regulated products, but they can vary very much for type, scope, and impact, to create awareness and understanding on the opportunities for dialogues that there are within EFSA, and to encourage applicants and other parties to use the services currently available. If we go to the structure of the catalog, you will see that this is divided for, as we said already, the different phases of the application's life cycle, and for each service we would give you the description and the scope of the service, who can request it, when and how, but also some information on the format, the participants that are expected to attend or request this type of services, and the type of outcome to be expected. So this is an overview, let's say a picture that shows you a bit what are the different phases of the application's life cycle as we have identified them, and the list of the different services that we have placed in the different phases. So you see, Karin, we have tried to select and define the different services according to the different phase in the application's life cycle. It is to be noted that some of the services which are included in the pre-submission phase in reality are accessible throughout the application's life cycle and not only accessible during the pre-submission phase. Okay. This is just a legend to give an idea on how this presentation will work. On the left side, you see some icons which are representing more the, let's say, actions. So who initiate the process, the description of the initiative, who are the participants, or the outcome to be expected. While on the right side, we have some avatar, let's say, some icons which are describing what are the key, people that are involved in the provision or in the attendance of the services. And these are the EFSA staff, EFSA expert, the European Commission representative, as well as, of course, you and the applicants, the industry associations, the member state competent authorities, and any other stakeholders. Obviously, please note that these icons and avatars are only meant to exemplify a bit the different roles and actions, and the catalog remains the main reference. So if we are all ready, I would start with the first phase, the pre-submission phase, and go through the services that, some of the services that we have included under this phase. We will start with the EFSA guidance document. These documents, the production, the revision, and the update of such documents, either if they are technical or administrative, is produced by EFSAs and the EFSA panels. These documents are there to explain administrative or scientific requirements. They can include within the document example or case studies, data requirements, list of scientific evidence, checklists, and all relevant information which are useful to prepare and submit an application on regulated products. It is important to note that explanatory notes are also documents that can accompany and are supplementary documents which are published together with the guidance document, where we would include a key principle and example of good studies and reporting. Of course, the outcome in this case is the publication of either new guidance document, both administrative or technical, or revised or updated ones.
And the guidance documents are developed by the expert in the working group, correct?
Correct, yes, with the help, of course, and the assistance of the EFSA staff. Info session on applications. These are technical meetings that can cover administrative and scientific issues related to applications. They are organized by the App Desk unit together with the REPRO scientific units, the Regulated Products Department units. The participants attending to this technical meeting are the EFSA experts, the EFSA staff, the European Commission when on an ad hoc basis and when requested, and of course the online registrants. They can vary very much in terms of format. They can last half a day, 1 day, but even 1.5 days. And the way in which you can access this type of events is to check the EFSA website and register once the public registration is opened on the EFSA website. These are forums to discuss various topics. Of course, they can vary very much according to the needs, and sometimes they cover the outcome of public consultations, finalized administrative or scientific guidance documents, specific scientific topics, and of course, they do not provide a pre-assessment on upcoming or ongoing applications. For most of the cases with events in EFSA, what will be published on the EFSA website will be the final agenda, all presentation, and a post-event summary.
Okay, Margarita, to clarify again to the participants that are today connected, the info session everyone can register. It's open to everyone.
That's right, Karin. So the registration are opened on the EFSA website. Of course, these are type of meetings which are targeted, let's say, to applicants, because the topics discussed are very much of interest to the applicants, but they're open to everybody and everybody can register. Regarding the roundtable with the industry association, this is an annual meeting on food and feed regulated products, which is set up to increase transparency and engagement. It is organized by EFSA And EFSA staff are attending, of course, the European Commission is attending, and the industry association representatives as well. This technical meeting, annual meeting, is usually lasting half a day. It is upon invitation by EFSA, so EFSA is sending out invitation letter to the participants, and the topics to be discussed during this meeting can vary very much and can be administrative, scientific or managerial, but also on communication issues as well as on the challenges which are linked to the application for regulated products. Again, also for this type of event, what we will make available to the public will be the final agenda, all presentation, the list of participants, and the post-event summary. For what it concerns the ad hoc meeting with an industry association, this service differs a bit from the previous one because we're talking about an individual meeting with one industry association, meaning that EFSA staff, together with the European Commission on an ad hoc basis, is meeting with the industry association, one single industry association, upon request by the industry association. This is a forum to exchange information and views on food and feed regulated products application, but in particular to discuss methodological and procedural aspects, scientific requirements or approaches which are unique to a specific scientific area. That's why also is linked to one industry association.
Okay, so compared to the previous one, which was open to several industry associations with more general topic, here it's more specific to a scientific area covered by an industry association.
That's correct, Karin. And also for this event, we usually publish the final agenda, all presentation, and the list of participants that have attended the meeting. For what concerns the repro webinars, I think that you know quite well what is it about, since you are connected together with us to the Applications Desk webinar. These are info sessions which are held and online event to exchange views and enhance an open dialogue on practical, scientific and administrative issues, but also to train or understand better specific tools which are accompanying the risk assessment. So these forums are particularly good in opening up to a further and a wider type of audience so that everybody can actually participate and engage with EFSA on specific and tailored topics. The participants to these webinars are EFSA experts of the working groups and panels, as it was in the case, Karin, of the claims webinar. EFSA staff, of course, as today for us. The European Commission, of course, can also attend, and of course, you as online registrants. The format also for this case is very different. Webinars can be organized for 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, but it's quite indicative, so and it's quite flexible as a tool, so can change and vary very much. The way in which you can access it, you know it very well since you are attending one, is registering to Adobe Connect platform through the web announcement on the EFSA website. In particular, I already mentioned it, but the topics that are discussed during repro webinars are very specific, so they can investigate on methodological and procedural aspects, but also a bit investigate and analyze specific tools or specific requirements for submitting and preparing applications. For what it concerns the outcome, we already mentioned it at the beginning of this webinar. We will have, of course, the final agenda, the presentation, a post-event summary, and, of course, the webinar recording. Excuse me. Then we have the AppDesk Web Form. The AppDesk Web Form is a front office and support desk activity on regulated products related matters. It's an online form which is published on the EFSA website, and it gives the possibility to any stakeholder which is interested in regulated products to interact with EFSA on various topics. These topics can be administrative or scientific. They can be related to the EU regulatory framework, the guidance document requirements, but also the status of applications. In the case in which EFSA receives this type of request, we aim to reply within 15 working days, and it's an activity which is dealt by the Applications Desk unit together with the regulated product scientific units. And we try to provide an individual answer to the requester within 15 working days. from the receipt.
And it can be an administrative or scientific questions through the web form? Yeah,
that's right, Karine. We receive quite very general questions, but also very specific via the web form. So the topic can really change, and it depends from the user and from the requesters. It is a platform which is accessible to everybody, so it can be on a specific application. So in that case, it might be very scientific, or on the general framework for preparing or submitting an application on, or also the understanding of a food sector area.
Okay, Margarita, I see that we have some questions, so that among the 70 participants, there's the use of the chat and the question and answer box. Yeah. There's one question from Anne-Laure related to the info session. So is there the way of participating to an info session, and a question more related to the online participation?
Yeah, well, as I was mentioning before, the registration for attending an info session is published on EFSA website. So ideally and conceptually, this is open to everybody, and everybody can request and register for attending this technical meeting. Of course, we have a limit in terms of availability of seats, and therefore EFSA is reserving the rights to select this type of participants in case we reach too many. But conceptually, yes, it is open to everybody that has an interest on the topic, of course.
And then we will clarify, info session is a physical meeting. So basically you register, you attend the meeting, but we are not allowing for the moment any web stream or no recording also. It's really a physical meeting with interaction.
Indeed. So for the moment, even though the registration is online, it's for attending the meeting physically, either in EFSA or somewhere else. And I see that there is another question coming from Chris. And I see, in case of difference between the EFSA guidance and the regulation, I don't know. Well, as I was mentioning to you, the EFSA guidance are
based on the requirement of the legislation.
Correct, are based on the requirement of the legislation. And the legislation is giving the lines on how to submit and prepare the application. So guidance documents are accompanying and adding up on the requirements which are already quite well specified on the regulation for all food and feed regulated areas. I think we can move on now, Karine, if you agree. So we would move now to the submission phase, which is the second in the life cycle. I would leave now the floor to you for continuing this journey in the catalogue of services.
Thank you very much, Margarita, for this introduction, for presenting the highlight, the objective of the webinar, for entering already in the services that are available before submission, but also, as you highlight, some of the services can be raised during the life cycle of an application. So entering now in the phase 2 submission, we have given the possibility since 2012 to submit the application by electronic means. So this means that the application can be the original application, the updates of the application, or any missing or additional information submitted through the life cycle of the application can be submitted by electronic means, can be a CD-ROM, preferably a CD-ROM. The objective is to send the application and the related document via electronic means, but to also receive the original signed cover letter listing with all the annexes, the table of content and the mandates. This is to ensure that we have received indeed what was expected to be sent. Objective of this service is to minimize the administrative burden for the applicant. And we will acknowledge this reception by a letter or email acknowledging the reception of the information, giving the name of the contact person and the format of the application we have received.
Sorry, Karine, I have a question on this. Does it mean that I cannot submit a paper version of an application?
Alors, it's still possible to submit on paper, but it's not recommended because only on paper will not be possible. So we always need an electronic means of the application. What can be done now is only the electronic means plus the original table of content and the mandate on paper.
Okay.
We still, very few cases, we still receive sometimes the CD-ROM and a full paper copy of the application. But these services has been well received, and very quickly we are now receiving, was implemented with CD-ROMs. Okay, so we're moving to the completeness check or suitability phase that we have defined as our phase 3A. And here we are going to present to you the clarification teleconference during completeness check. This service is a service to be requested by the applicant. So it's one of the services that the applicant can use and call. It's a telephone conference to clarify any outstanding issue during the completeness or suitability check of an application. It's to be held between EFSA staff and the applicant. It's over the phone, estimated 30 minutes. And it can be requested by an applicant upon receipt of an EFSA letter requesting missing information, or any time during the completeness check phase. The objective here is to clarify the administrative and the scientific rationale of individual questions raised during completeness check, to ensure that the understanding of the question is correct so that the answer will be provided and will be adequate, and to clarify any outstanding issues. So there's no limit in this service. This service can be requested by the applicant during the phase when the application is under completeness check. We will acknowledge this clarification teleconference by an email, just highlighting that the telephone conference took place, indicating the date and the duration.
Can I interrupt you, Karin? I have a question. In this case, can I already have an anticipation of things that might be already identified as potentially difficult for the risk assessment phase when I request a clarification during completeness check?
No, during completeness check, we cannot we have no preempt of the discussion in the risk assessment that will be held by the expert. So here it's just a compliance with the requirements that are in the guidance, that are in the legislation. It's an administrative check and does not, is independent from the one held by the expert in the working group. And we will see now the next services is more targeted during the risk assessment.
Okay.
So we are moving to the risk assessment phase, and here we are going to present you two services, one to be requested by the applicant and another one to be requested by EFSA and the expert. So the clarification teleconference during the risk assessment is when the application has moved in the risk assessment phase with the expert, and is to be requested also by an applicant. It's a telephone conference to clarify a request that has been received this time by a request for additional information during the risk assessment phase. So it's to be held between EFSA staff and the applicant. It has, we estimate, a maximum duration of 1 hour. Again, these services is to be requested by the applicant upon reception of a letter from EFSA requesting additional information. The objective here is to clarify the scientific rationale of the individual question raised during the risk assessment, to ensure a good understanding of the questions to be answered, and in no way it can provide a pre-assessment of upcoming requests. So it's really to clarify when there's a request, to really have a good understanding of the request and provide the information requested by the expert. In this case, we will also send an email acknowledging that the teleconference took place. We indicate the date and the duration. Now, the second services which is available in this phase is the Applicants Earring. So the Applicants Earring is a service that is requested by EFSA. It's offered by EFSA. EFSA invites the applicant to attend a specific agenda item of working group or panel meeting. The applicant is invited to an applicant's hearing to answer questions raised by the working group or the panel. So what is happening is that EFSA and the expert of the working group have one of their standard working group meeting. There's one agenda item in which they are allowing the applicants to attend the agenda item. The objective is to clarify additional data or supplementary information provided when they are considered not appropriate or unclear, or to clarify any outstanding issue of the application. So the event is organized with a maximum 2 hours duration, and it's held between the EFSA staff, the EFSA expert, and the applicant. So the working group is taking place as usual. At a certain moment of the agenda, the item of the applicant's hearing is coming in. So this gives the possibility for the applicants to enter the room, to have the agenda item discussed and to answer the question from the expert, and then to leave the room and to allow the expert from the working group to continue their discussion.
Okay, so I understand that the applicant are attending the working group only for the dedicated item related to their application, and then they're asked to leave the room.
Yes, correct. It's correct, Margarita. So the working group agenda is defined. It's only for the agenda item dedicated to the applicant's hearing that the applicants are allowed to come in, and then after they go out again and the working group is continuing.
And another question on this, Karine, do we publish anything about this meeting and about this participation of the applicants?
Yes, as you have seen, for all the services, we try to monitor and we try to make trace of the event. Here, in the case of a participation of an applicant to an applicant's hearing, this is reported in the minutes of the working group, which is published on the EFSA website. So the attendance, the agenda item is reported, and who has been attending is reporting in the minutes. In addition, EFSA staff is sending to the applicant a follow-up letter to ensure a mutual understanding of the issue that have been discussed. It's one of the rare services where there's a follow-up letter with a bit of content of what has been discussed. In the other services, it was only factual that the service took place and the date.
Okay, thank you.
So if we are moving on, we will move now to the last phase of our workflow, of our path of the application life cycle, with the adoption and the publication phase. Here we have several services, and we are going to present to you two. The first one is a notification email on adoption. So this service is provided by EFSA, and it's a notification email addressed to the applicant, informing on the adoption of the scientific output by the scientific panel. So it's initiated by the staff in the scientific unit within 1 working day from the adoption of the opinion. And it's targeted to the applicant who has filled in an application and for which the application was for discussion and adoption at the plenary. So EFSA is sending email that the scientific output has been adopted. And that's just an informative. There's no content in the information. Okay. Just, yeah.
Sorry, that means that I'm not receiving the opinion itself. I'm just receiving an information, a textual information, without any attachment on the opinion or the content of the...
Yes, that's correct. The notification email, which is 1 day after the plenary, is just to inform on the adoption. There's no information on the content, and there's no document attached. The next services to present to you is the post-adoption telephone conference. This services is a service to be requested by the applicant. So it's one of these services that the applicant can ask. It's to be held between EFSA staff and the applicant. And the objective is to have a telephone conference, an adopted scientific output, to present the content of a final scientific output as expressed by the panel. And this can be requested once an opinion is finalized and published. So we have to finalize the work, publish the scientific opinion, and then after the applicant might ask to have a telephone conference to best understand the rationale of the conclusion. These telephone conferences are taking place between EFSA staff, the applicants, and the Commission. It's around 2 hours discussion, and who can request such services? The service is again to be requested by the applicant, for which a scientific opinion has been finalized and published. And I will insist on publishing because we have to wait for the information to be published, and then after we can receive requests for post-adoption telephone conference.
Karin, I have a question. In case the opinion as adopted by the panel is inconclusive or negative, would the applicant be able to ask for a post-adoption teleconference to have, let's say, advice on possible future submission of applications on the same product, for instance?
No, this is one of the scope that I want to make very clear this point. The objective of the telephone conference is to explain the scientific rationale of the final output from the panel, to clarify the recommendation, if any recommendation have been made in the scientific opinion, to clarify the source of evidence and the factor that influence the outcome. But the telephone conference do not provide any scientific advice for future submission. Okay. It's really to target the opinion, the basis for the opinion, and to explain again the content of the scientific opinion as adopted by the panel.
Okay.
The follow-up of this post-adoption telephone conference is a letter which is produced by EFSA, including the main points of discussion, just to keep track of what has been discussed during that day. So here again, this is one of the services where we do have a letter from EFSA to the applicant recalling the main point of discussion. So we will move now. We have gone through the presentation of the services and the different services available, the services that can be requested by the applicants, the one that can be initiated by EFSA, the services that can be asked during the life cycle of the application, all through life cycle or specific to a phase. So I think we give an overview. What we have to present to you now is that in EFSA we are monitoring the service implementation. So we are monitoring each time a service is taking place, the dates, the who is having the service, and we are keeping track to be able to monitor the service implementation. This is the overview of the service that we have been held by EFSA with all the repro department from March 2015. We can see that we have a variety of services, that all services are implemented. Some of them are a bit more popular than others, but the organization is different also. So this is the overview to show the implementation of these services.
Yeah, and indeed, as we were saying at the beginning, one of the aim of this webinar is really to encourage you to use the services. So that's also why we have inserted this slide, to give you a bit of an idea of what are the most popular, as you said, services provided until now, and what are the other ones.
Okay, so we are reaching the end of this webinar. We are very happy to have more than 70 participants that have followed us during this webinar with some questions and answer asked through the tool. So what we would like to thank you very much for the participation, but we would like to make sure that you do use the catalog, that you have a better understanding of when to use a service, how to request it, what to expect after the service, and to clarify this point. The catalog is updated regularly, so we are updating it once per year. So we advise to search for the most updated version, and Margarita, you've shown where to go each time on the website to find the most updated version. Some initiatives are currently under consideration, so it's a constant work on populating the catalog with new services. So we do encourage for you to participate in the services, to give feedback when there's a possibility. We are monitoring the implementation. We are trying to update also the catalog regularly. So we would like to remind that one issue is that there's no plan of recording of transcript of any of the services that are available in the catalog. I think the only one that we are basically recording is this webinar. It's the type of service which is webinar, which is recorded by EFSA. But as a line, we want to remind everyone that no recorded transcript is allowed for the telephone conference or the meetings that are held in the catalog. In case of doubt, or if you would like more feedback or more information, we just advise you to contact the functional mailbox, which is visible now as applications, AppDesk applications. And perhaps if we will move to the next slides, we will give you a big thank you for the participation. That was a very interesting webinar, a very great opportunity to explain our work and to explain how to use it. So Margherita, yes, you will give also some last words.
Yeah, I would like to thank the community very much. These webinars are new in EFSA, and well, we're very happy about this experience, and we find that it's a good way to a bit reach out more with you and with the online community, and perhaps discuss on specific issues which are of interest to you. And exactly for this purpose, you will receive an EU survey right after this webinar. So we would really recommend you to take part to the EU survey and provide us with your feedback on the experience, and perhaps also providing us with some suggestions for topics or matters that you would like to see discussed and dealt with a webinar. So I think that's it from our side. Thank you very much to all.
Thank you very much to all for participation.
And see you next time.